Hey, this is Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling, and this is Platinum versus Raw, God help me, from August 11th, 2020. The fuck? All right, here we go. Let's get into it. So we got, they open up with a graphic in memory of Kamala, who, he's 70 years old when he passed away. They didn't do anything else about Kamala. They fucking didn't even mention him. Just fuck you, WWE. Come on, man. They got 3 hours to fill up, and they really can't put together a video package for Kamala, who worked for you prominently for quite some time, worked with your top people, treated like crap and underpaid. Have you ever heard this story? So Kamala wrestled Undertaker in this kind of big hyped up match, and then it was revealed later that Undertaker got paid something like 5 times more for that match than Kamala. And this was in the days where, you know, where that would have been seen as a grave insult. And they can't put together a video package for the guy. He's not even in their Hall of Fame. We're from the Performance Center. They have the usual opening thing. So we got Saxton and Samoa Joe. We're going to do a contract signing right off the top. These are always horrible. I believe Bruce Pritchard just loves contract signings. But Samoa Joe is great in this. Just really, really great. So he's hyping up this thing with Dominic Mysterio and Seth. Rollins comes out. He's forced to trudge through this gimmick. Dominic's out. He's got the kendo stick. They go back and forth. Again, the morality of the WWE is you got something you didn't deserve. You're ungrateful. That's where morality lies. And in this case, Dominic is worse morality-wise because Rollins says he's ungrateful. That's the only thing that separates good and bad, but in most cases, it's the person who's the babyface that's told that they don't deserve what they have and that they're ungrateful. So bad. Rollins is doing the best he can with this shtick, I will grant you. Rollins declares that he's the best wrestler of this generation. What this points out to me, when you have people saying that they're the best, is that you look around and go, you realize something about WWE, and come with me here for a moment. At one point, WCW was riding really high, but then they ran into this thing where they were missing their top stars, a whole bunch of them, through injury or through faked injury so they could collect a paycheck. Through any number of reasons, they were basically without their top 5 stars. And I realized the WWE is without that as well. They don't have a bunch of their top stars, and it's very evident. So I guess Dominic is now signed to the WWE Superstar, which coinciding with what Seth Rollins has accused him of, the heel accusing the babyface of, you're getting something you don't deserve. Now the effect is muted. And instead of being excited about Dominic, and again, it's just there are these small things that add up to very bad effect. We come back from commercial. We don't get an NXT ad. We won't get an NXT ad until the end of the first hour. Oh my gosh, when they're already losing viewers. It's so crazy. Pat kicking Cole in the face looked really good, by the way. That did look good. Even though it's stupid, but it's whatever. We come back, we got Seth Rollins versus Humberto, who is a full jobber now. This notion that Humberto was going to be the person who backed up Rey Mysterio is long gone. Seth beats him quick. Murphy got hit with the kendo stick because at one time he tried to interfere. So now they just go into beating the shit out of Dominic with the stick, and it's absolutely brutal. It absolutely goes on a very long time. And it also points out a real huge problem that the WWE has that I can't believe I'm only just now realizing, is that their baby faces ain't shit. Eddie Graham, when he was booking Florida, always made it a point to, if there was going to be some kind of beatdown occurring or something where the baby faces were outnumbered by the heels and something like that, he would always make it a point that the major baby faces would be shown to be not there. And the reason is shit like this. So Dominic's getting beat up and nobody comes to save him. Bad enough that Samoa Joe, who already had a confrontation with Seth, and where you wanted to see Samoa Joe against Seth more than anything. But, they established something that Samoa Joe can't interfere, but he doesn't even look concerned. He doesn't even go over there and show this moral struggle of, I want to save him, but I can't. They don't do any of that. And Dominic just gets the shit beat out of him for more than 5 minutes with this kendo stick. It feels... So the WWE has no baby faces. So the Street Profits don't care. Viking Raiders don't care. None of the major baby faces care. That's all we get, is that you do your own dumb little thing, and these things never cross, except when they do. But barring a quote-unquote storyline, you will not act out of your little controlled bubble. That's what they've established again and again and again. And if you do that, what happens is everybody realizes that this is not a show working in lockstep, but a series of moments and vignettes that are just strung together very loosely under the guise of being a show. What is the psychological effect of this long term on the crowd? That there are no true baby faces, because nobody came to help Dominic. That when the guys act like they care about each other, they really don't. And that ultimately they don't love each other. And you're saying, Steve, that sounds crazy. But if there's true respect for Rey Mysterio and true love, if this was real, if you're in the audience and you're a wrestler, do you not come and do something? If you're Samoa Joe, even if there's some rule, aren't you so compelled by what you are seeing, which is a vicious beating, that you supersede whether you get fired or not as an announcer to help? At what point do they establish that these things matter, truly matter, instead of just being mechanisms to get to the next part of the plot? Because everything feels like complete artifice, and it's designed to elicit an emotional response while failing to establish connections to the heart and mind. There are logical gaps happening on Raw and SmackDown. There are logistical things fuck, man. You've got the Retribution, as they're now being called, running around doing Antifa-like things. They throw the cinder block through the glass, which just felt very controlled and safe. And then you have the car that's flipped over. We don't see them flip over the car, of course. We can't have that. And then they're kind of jumping around it, but then you realize, they're not even allowed to, kick that car. What are they doing? Why are they flip this car? And there's no repercussions, and nothing logically happens, and nothing makes sense. You have the Retribution running around SmackDown, cutting ropes with a chainsaw, and blah, blah, blah. And everybody in the crowd who supposedly they would love the Performance Center more than anybody. But do they? Because they're not helping it. There's no love on this show. There's no love in WWE. I'm not saying that people don't love what they do, but nothing feels precious. and it all feels like devices. And once you have revealed to your audience, and this is in any entertainment form, that it is an artifice. This isn't about kayfabe. This is about storytelling and people who are characters supposedly with motivations and desires and value that show none of it because of how the show is written. This show is shit. It is shit. And we can talk about, now individually, some of the parts worked better than Raw's worked in a while. Raw Underground is showing a slight heartbeat. I would put it on life support that it has a chance. But in the end of the day, you know, nothing matters, right? Andrade versus Angelo Dawkins. Do you fucking care? Ask yourself the truth. Do you fucking care about this match? We had a poisoning happen, and none of it really matters, right? Angelo Dawkins wins. Who gives a fuck? Right? What's the stakes? What does it matter? How does this affect their tag match that's going to happen? It doesn't. None of it really does. Zelina Vega against Bianca Belair. So Bianca Belair is mad because it says Selena poisoned her man. But as an audience member, you know that it's not Zelina. You know that it's going to end up being something else, right? And so Zelina, in this case, is unfairly being persecuted by the babyface. So what the fuck is going on? Why does it matter? We have heels that are falsely accused, baby faces that we've declared are wrong about shit in their crusades, and all of these baby faces that care so much. None of them came out to save Dominic. And then Dominic himself is, he's getting something he doesn't really deserve, according to Seth Rollins. And it's not disputed. It is truly a world of amorality that they've set up. Apollo Crews looks great. He comes out there, he cuts a promo, but he comes across as smarmy. The attribute that is most admired is the ability to be smarmy and sarcastic. That's what passes for being clever, intelligent, and strong morally, is merely being flippant. And more flippant than the other side. That's your moral equivalency on Raw. And again, Steve, why do you keep talking about this? Because it fucking matters. Because they're setting up a world where it's very hard to get emotionally invested. Very difficult. And I think lots of things reflect that. It's the world of Raw is a world that is, whereas nothing is of consequence. And nostalgia is merely a currency. I mean, Kamala died and they can't make an allusion to it. None of the baby faces even make a Kamala reference. Could you imagine that happened on the Indies? Let's say a big star in Georgia Indies died. Everybody would do some kind of tribute to them, because they would feel sincerely about it. But Kamala dies, who all of these guys and girls conceivably grew up watching, or at least knew about, and nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares on this show. Apollo Crews against Shelton Benjamin. Wins with a roll-up. Who cares? Apollo Crews is the U.S. champion that has lost more matches than he's won. Where's the value in any of this? Lashley's going to go for the full Nelson, but MVP stops him because he says, I want him at full health, but then tries to attack him? Does any of this make fucking sense to anybody? Does any of that make fucking sense to anybody? We got Mickie James returning, which should be a big fucking deal. But instead, Lana and Natalya just basically blow her off. And then they're getting, because they got to get over their catchphrase, she's rude. And we're going to have Natalya, I guess, against Mickie James next week, which they sort of half-heartedly set up. And it should be a big deal, but nobody fucking cares. And if they don't care, if they can't even begin to try to sell this shit, why are we supposed to care? Viking Raiders, Ricochet and Cedric Alexander, we have a dumb little bit where, you know, you're cute, you're not, okay. Tozawa and his ninjas. And I wrote in my notes here, one of them is R-Truth, meaning the ninjas. We go through the match. Oh, look. R-Truth is with a ninja, and then he pins him and gets his title back. And they go, like, 38-time champion, haha. Man. We're back there with Drew. I turned the sound off and just started yelling, why didn't you help Dominic if you're the big baby face? And then he talks about, see, the promos are getting better. Like Orton's promo at the end, Ric Flair's promo at the end, Drew's here, where they bring up history, they bring up things. Again, they're attaching themselves to history, which is great. But again, while they are very quick and very proficient and good at attaching themselves to history and nostalgia, what they're not good is making things that feel like their history. And feel like we're going to have an attachment to this later on. We're not going to remember any of this in a week, if not sooner. Peyton Royce against Liv Morgan. Peyton Royce wins because you have to derail the momentum of Liv. And so they do. And then Riot's there with Liv, and there's still tension between them still. Instead of them being, fuck, man. We're going to go to an underground fight. Yay. So they establish that guys are, even in underground, this guy is like a jiu-jitsu expert, or this guy is a wrestling expert. And then the guy proceeds to just beat the other dude down without any hint of being a submission expert. And then when, you know, this thing is supposed to be rough, rowdy, and it's a chance to prove yourself, and it's like, who wants to take this guy on next? And everybody turns their back and they're scared. So in this Fight Club, did you have anybody who ever backed out of having a fight? No, that fucking belies the point of this thing feeling dangerous, right? It's like, no, I don't want that guy. I guess that's their weird wrestling way of putting him over, is by having guys refuse to fight in the club that's just there so guys can fight each other. If you can refuse a fight, why would anybody fight that big fucking monster guy? None of this fucking makes sense. None of it. Asuka against Bayley. This match is out fucking standing. No doubt about it. Bayley taps out, just like Bayley lost to Kairi Sane, which came to nothing. Now Bayley loses here. So again, you have champions losing all over the place. And so Asuka is going to get to wrestle Sasha Banks at SummerSlam in a match that's probably going to steal it if they let them just do a fucking match. It's good stuff. Back to Raw Underground. And see, here it is. So it's Ruas. Oh, he's a submission fighter guy. And then he just slams him around, beats him up, wins. Does anyone want to take Ruas on? Nope. Wow, exciting. Then their fucking big man taking on a guy who's even smaller just destroys him. Shayna Baszler comes, and then this is interesting. Oh, Shayna Baszler going to take on this guy? No, Shane makes the guy leave. Boy, this Raw Underground sure is dangerous. Nothing's happening. And then Shayna Baszler, 3 people come out. Shayna Baszler beats them all. Because we needed to establish that Shayna Baszler was a badass? What the fuck? Okay. The car flipped over. It's ludicrous. Randy Orton against Kevin Owens. It's a pretty good match. But again, it's a foregone conclusion match. Flair and Orton wins. Of course, Orton wins. Flair and Orton both cut great promos. They're really, really great. Then he low blows him. They don't show the kick in a rare show of some kind of quality and taste. And that's the end. they're so worried about ratings and making the show interesting that they've forgotten the point of pro wrestling. You want to know what that is, folks? It's to make it meaningful. This has been Platinum versus Raw.